Hello and welcome. I'm not going to waste a bunch of time with a long intro. Instead, I'm going to stop talking so we can start looking at the subject of today's video, the NETA S electric sedan. Man, that's a good looking design. I mean, it's not a perfect design, of course. I wish, for example, they'd made those wheels a little bit less fussy and maybe 20 inches instead of 19. That's a pretty big wheel gap, and not to fat shame, but that rear end looks a little bit chubby, if you ask me. Still, it just looks sinister. I really like it. In fact, editor, give me about 10 more seconds of exterior B-roll before we move on to talking about trunk space. First, let me show you the frunk. This thing is about the same size as the one in the BYD Seal, but neither of them are as big as the one in the Model 3. Of course, nothing in this world is free, and in the case of the S, that beautiful roofline comes at the cost of rear visibility, which is down to nearly Lamborghini levels of bad. Then there comes the trunk space. This thing is about the same length as a BMW 5 Series. In fact, it's slightly longer than a 5 Series, but rear trunk space is not particularly impressive for a car that big. All right, enough about that. Let's check out the inside and see if it can match the exterior design of this car. Oh, that door sounds pretty cheap when you close it, and that's a warning of things to come. This is the most expensive NETA so far. Their previous efforts were focused on small hatchbacks and SUVs, which cost anywhere from $11,000 to $27,000 US.
The cheapest version of the S is an extended range EV and starts at $28,000 US. Pure EV versions start at $35,000 USD, and the performance version we're driving today costs a little over $40,000.
These seats may be trimmed in micro suede and real leather, but there's a surprising amount of other hard plastic materials in this interior for something that expensive. That includes, for example, the dashboard here, which appears to be made out of an orange rock-like material. It also seems to be pretty easy to scratch as well. Here in the center console, you have some pretty cheap black plastic, which also squeaks when you touch it. There's more black plastic on the steering wheel and the doors. The steering wheel buttons and the door or window switches, rather, are all capacitive touch, and unsurprisingly, they don't work very well. Thankfully, there's plenty in terms of design and tech to distract you from some of the more unsavory materials in here. I joked earlier about this looking like orange rock, but I actually quite like this kind of burnt orange interior color. I even like this fractal wood pattern, even if it looks much better than it feels.
There's also the small fact of that big screen, which measures 17.6 inches and controls more or less everything in the car, all the way down to adjusting your seat. Worry not, passenger, you get a 12.3-inch screen, something that's actually quite rare at this price point. Also rare is the 21-speaker sound system with headrest-mounted speakers on the front row.
But my favorite screen is certainly this 13.3-inch digital instrument cluster. It's sleek, it's simple, and it's almost retro-futuristic in its design. It has all the information you need and none of the information that you don't. The rear seats of the NETA S could be considered one of its highlights because it has a feature that almost none of its competitors have: adjustable rake. That is accomplished using the center console here. There's a touchpad, or kind of a capacitive touchpad. As you'll see, it can move back and forth like so. Again, almost none of its direct competitors have this, except maybe the BYD Han. Leg room, also very decent, has a 2.98 meter wheelbase, again longer than pretty much every one of its direct competitors. However, headroom, not particularly impressive. Again, you pay a price for that beautiful roofline. I should start by saying this is a pre-production vehicle, which means that some of its features haven't been activated yet. That includes, for example, the augmented reality heads-up display, which currently only shows the speed rather than the other features that it should have. It's doing a pretty good job of that, at least. The other thing is its suite of driver assistance systems, collectively known as NETA Pilot. That's also not activated on this car. Oh, that reminds me. There is a single trim of this car which does have LiDAR available. That trim also includes an upgrade to this car's chipset, which takes computing power from 16 tops to 200 tops. The thing is, that trim costs $46,000 and is only available with the rear-mounted single-motor powertrain. In other words, if you went and bought a performance version that cost $40,000, not only would you save that $6,000, you would also get exactly double the power, a total of 340 kilowatts and 620 newton meters of torque. That would push you to 100 kilometers per hour in 3.9 seconds. Which one would you choose?
Opting for the performance will get you a larger battery too, measuring 91 kilowatt hours and netting you 650 kilometers of range on the CLTC cycle. Rear-wheel drive models manage 715 kilometers of range from an 85 kilowatt hour battery.
This thing has a longer wheelbase than pretty much all of its comparable competitors. That includes the BYD Seal and BYD Han, the Xpeng P7, and the Tesla Model 3. That, combined with the fact that it has a double wishbone front suspension and 5-link rear, should result in top-notch ride quality. But honestly, it doesn't. This thing does not ride in the same premium, kind of expensive way that something like a BYD Seal or Tesla Model 3 does. In fact, the NVH is also noticeably worse than both those cars, particularly motor whine on the highway. Nor does it handle like those cars either. The BYD Seal and the Tesla Model 3 have noticeably sharper turn-in and feel noticeably lighter on their feet than this car does. This is a time when the styling of a car can actually work against its driving experience. You see, when I look at this thing, I think it should be very sporty because it looks like Darth Vader's daily commuter, but in reality, it drives a little bit more pedestrian than that. Every new car purchase is a battle between practicality and passion. Potential S buyers need to accept the fact that this car doesn't have quite the same level of material quality or driving experience as some of its rivals. But I mean, look at it. This is the best looking car in this segment by far. That makes it a car you buy with your heart, not your head. And I think they're going to sell quite a few of them.